They told their kids I was dead. Then I moved in next door. My brother Cresswell had been holding that glass for 9 years by the time I bought the house on Aldermore Lane. 9 years of keeping his children away from me. 9 years of explaining my non-existence to two people who shared my blood and had never once been given the chance to know it. He told them I had died in a car accident. Not that we were estranged. Not that there had been a falling out. Not even the softer, more navigable lie of we lost touch or your aunt moved very far away and we don't speak anymore. He had looked at his children, his daughter Wren, who was 4 at the time, and his son Callum, who was barely 2, and he had constructed a fiction of death so complete, so detailed, so reinforced over the subsequent years, with photographs kept out of albums and names kept out of conversations, that by the time those children were 13 and 11, my death was simply a fact of their lives. Something that had happened before their real memories began. Aunt Petra had died in a car accident on a wet November road outside of Portland, and that was simply a truth of the world, like weather or gravity. I did not know any of this for the first 4 years. To understand how a person ends up being killed off by their own family, you have to understand what Cresswell and I were to each other before the end of what we were to each other. We grew up in a small city in the Pacific Northwest, the kind of place where the rain is so constant, it stops being weather and becomes atmosphere. Our parents were educators, both of them, the kind of people who filled the house with books and expectations in roughly equal measure. We were not wealthy, but we were comfortable, and more than comfortable we were for most of our childhood close. Cresswell was 4 years older than me, and he wore that seniority with genuine care rather than dominance. He taught me to ride a bike in the parking lot of an elementary school on a Sunday morning. He sat outside my bedroom door the night our dog died when I was 9, and talked to me through the wood until I fell asleep. He was the person I called from a payphone at a college party when I was 17 and too frightened to call our parents, and he came and got me without a single word of judgment. For a long time he was my favorite person. The fracture did not come from drama. This is the thing that I think people expect when they hear the word estrangement, some operatic moment of irreversible catastrophe. A secret revealed. An accusation made, something sharp and specific that you can point to as the before and after. Our fracture was slower than that. It was made of smaller materials. It began when Cresswell married Dinah. Dinah was not a villain. I want to be careful here because the easier version of this account makes her one, and she was not. She was a woman who had grown up in a family with a very precise idea of how a family should operate, and that idea had a clear boundary around it. Inside the boundary, people who agreed, people who reinforced, people who confirmed the shape of things as Dinah understood them to be. Outside the boundary, disruption. And I, Petra, was disruption in a very specific form. I had opinions. Not aggressive ones, not cruel ones, but persistent ones. I was a person who said what I thought when I thought it was relevant to say it, and in Dinah's family architecture, this was a form of aggression so subtle it was almost impossible to name, and therefore impossible to defend yourself against. She did not accuse me of anything directly. She simply began the long, patient work of making herself uncomfortable whenever I was in the room, and Cresswell, who loved her, who had chosen her, who had built his life around her, began the long, patient work of managing that discomfort by managing me. It started with small adjustments, holiday plans that shifted at the last minute, phone calls that became less frequent, invitations that were extended with conditions attached. Then it became larger. The baby shower for Wren to which I was invited, and then uninvited via a text message, so brief and so impersonal, it felt like a notification from an automated system. The christening I learned about from a cousin 3 weeks after it occurred. The slow erasure of my brother from my daily life, conducted so gradually that I kept waiting for the moment when it would reverse itself, when he would call and say that this was temporary, when the real Cresswell, the one who had sat outside my bedroom door and talked me through grief, would reassemble himself out of the person he was becoming. That call never came. Click the link to hear the full story.